Today we're going to cover another motherboard from ASRock that is based on AMD Ryzen processors, and it's quite interesting because I always loved the Phantom gaming design. So today we have the ASRock X570 PG Velocita motherboard, which definitely looks outstanding. So we're going to check out all the information that you need to know from the connection, power design, speeds, specifications and features. So let's go. First of all, let's start with the I/O overview. So we have the BIOS flashback button, then we have two antenna ports for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. You have DisplayPort 1.4 and HDMI. You have 4 USB 3.2 generation 1. You have USB 3.2 generation 2 Type A and Type C, 2.5G LAN, 2 USB 3.2 generation 1, C-sub, in-out microphone, rear and SPDIF connections. When we're talking about some main features, we have the killer Ethernet E3100 2.5 gigabit per second Ethernet controller, which is designed specifically for basically competitive gamers and performance hungry users, as they put it. So it's something that enhanced detection and prioritization engine provides the ultimate networking experience for gaming and multimedia applications. Then we have the killer Wi-Fi 6AX1650, and finally we have the killer Double Shot Pro, which allows your Ethernet and Wi-Fi to work together for ultimate high-speed attack, as they stated. There's also two Hyper M.2 for SSDs, which supports PCI Express 4.0 M.2 SSDs, which is capable to perform twice the speed compared to the third generation, which you already know. Now the design is definitely something quite interesting, and if you're into Phantom gaming, let's say branding, it will definitely look cool in your case. When we're talking about power design, it has Dr. Moss 14 power phase design with DG power, supports AMD AM4 socket for Ryzen 2000, 3000, 4000G and 5000 series desktop processors. You have 7.1 channel HD audio, Realtek ALC 1220 audio codec with Nahimic audio, 8 SATA 3 ports. Now the power phase design with Dr. Moss has Nichicon 12K black caps with a lifespan of at least 12,000 hours. You have 15 microns gold contact in DIMM slots, front panel with USB 3.2 generation 2 Type C header, 2 ounce copper PCB board and high density power connectors. We can also mention that it has premium 60 ampere power choke, which effectively makes the saturation current up to 3 times better, and by that providing enhanced and improved V-core voltage to the motherboard. Since I mentioned the design, there's also one thing that it's eye-catching, that is the XXL aluminum alloy heatsink, which takes away the heat from the MOSFET and chipset so that your whole system may perform more stable and better. Talking about BIOS, it's always straightforward. We have the 256 megabit AMI UEFI legal BIOS with GUI support, supports plug and play, ACPI 5.1 compliance, wake up events, supports jumper free, SM BIOS 2.3 and loads of other information. So in BIOS you can also change the RGB, and basically you have loads of options when it comes to RGB lights, single lights or whatever you decide to go, even with the modes. So this is quite handy, even though you can always install their Polychrome Sync RGB application and do it in Windows. Now also you can see that it has 10 profiles for presets and everything in BIOS. Loads of combinations, loads of possibilities, monitor and checking out the sensors, of course temperature, voltages and everything else, but we're already used to ASRock BIOS, as already stated, so that's pretty cool. Now when we go with AIDA 64 cache and memory benchmark, the XMP profile is quite easy to unlock. You just choose your profile, and since I'm using 3600 megahertz memory, it was quite easy to choose basically the XMP profile and unlock the memory up to that frequency, and the speeds are actually quite normal for that. In the 64 cache and memory benchmark you can see that the read-write speeds, copy and latency. Now everything else is basically based on the RAMs, but the performance is quite alright. There's no I would say problems when unlocking the XMP to certain profiles, since this motherboard can go up to 5000 MHz OC. Also running AIDA64GP GPU benchmark. For the GPU you can check out the read and write and copy, so there's no flaw or mistakes when we're talking about transfer speeds and flops, IOPS and everything else. Talking about also the CPU and the memory and everything else, everything works perfectly fine on this board. Now in Cinebench R23, of course, the multi-core score is lower, and that's just because of the processor, since we have the 5600G on this motherboard. Unfortunately, I don't have any stronger CPU, but I was checking out other reviews and it can handle quite nicely 950X, even with overclocking at, I think it was 4.7 GHz on all cores without any issue. So that's quite cool, because the VRMs can handle that and there's no problems or issues with the temperatures on VRMs. Even with stress testing it with 5600G, there are no unnecessary temperatures, high temperatures, because you also have the XXL heatsink that keeps the VRMs cool. But in the single core you can actually see that it performs quite nicely as well, and gives most likely great advantage compared to the 2990 WX, but that's only single core. Multi-core is completely different, of course, since we're rocking here 6 cores, 12 threads. And finally, what can I say? The design is, as already stated, quite nice, and the Phantom Gaming design is always quite cool. Basically, you can combine it with RAMs, you can combine it with SSDs, cases even, and GPUs, that as well. So you can have a complete team and everything. When we're talking about performance, as already stated, the 5600G really works fine. The memories are incredible, working at the high speed, and the XMP profiles can be adjusted in your BIOS without any issues, and you have profiles that you can adjust for yourself, and you have presets already done, so that's quite cool. And it can handle 5950X. I mean, for a $265 motherboard that can handle 5950X and okay, 5600G, we'll have to say anything about that. But if we can handle that kind of processor for that kind of price, I would say that's quite a catch. And usually, well, at least in my country, for that price you don't get this kind of motherboard. So guys, if you're looking for an X570 motherboard that you want to pair up with a high-end processor or whatever, and with a decent price, this is definitely something that I would suggest. And because of that, I'll put the links below for you guys to check out the price, even though I already stated it. And until then, subscribe, like, click the notification bell for future content, more cool stuff coming very soon, and hopefully I will see you in another one. Bye bye.